The NeuroDADverse Podcast is produced by Squid Shack Studios.
Hey, I'm Ben.
And I'm Dan.
We're both fathers,
We're both married.
and we're both raising kids with diagnosed neurodiverse conditions.
Parenting is tough, and we're not saying it's harder for us, just different.
And sometimes that different can be hard to explain.
That's why we've created the NeuroDADverse, a weekly show where we share our wins, our challenges, and all the neuro-sparkly and neuro-spicy bits in between.
Our hope is to create a safe space for parents to share their own highs and lows of neurodiverse parenting. And just to remind you of three things.
You're doing great,
You are enough.
and you're definitely not alone.
So welcome to the NeuroDADverse.
So hello, welcome to the NeuroDADverse. Slightly different format this week. I am solo podding for only the second time in 56 weeks, which is a huge achievement from our standards. Ben can't join me this week. We've both had really busy weeks, quite challenging weeks in terms of time, and we are unable to get together. So I thought I'll just jump on and share my wins and my challenges of the last week, just to keep our schedule up, because it'd be a shame to break a 56-week-long streak. So for those of you that are new here, I'm Dan. I'm one of the hosts of NeuroDADverse, and we started this podcast to help parents of neurodivergent children to feel comfortable listening to and then sharing potentially their own wins and challenges that crop up in our day-to-day lives on a weekly basis, to try and help show progression when it might not seem obvious, and also to just talk through some of the things that we find difficult, because let's face it, being a parent is hard, and being the parent of a neurodivergent child is slightly different. So our first item in our show usually is where we try and share what our week has felt like in 3 words. And for me, I think I'm going to go this time with woke up, I'm going to go with giggles, and I'm going to go sun, because it has been hot. You can probably tell, for those of you that are regular listeners, I am not situated in my office, and that is partly because of the sun, and it is incredibly hot. So I thought I'd come into my garden and try and use a slightly different mic setup, holding my little microphone here, to see how this goes, and if it makes reporting our podcast slightly easier, then it might give me and Ben a little bit more freedom to try and find time on these busier weeks. So let me know, how is this sounding and how is it looking? Now, I appreciate, for those of you that are watching on YouTube or Spotify, you will probably tell that I am not had the greatest amount of sleep. And as this rolls into our challenges part of our show, heat and sleep don't really combine well in my household. So it has been hot. Sleep continues to be a challenge. Generally speaking now, when we chronicle back the last 3 or 4 years, the ICOTs do not sleep from probably June until about October. When the sun comes out and the summer months come, it's much harder to switch off, but also the heat comes and Frankie struggles to regulate. And if he struggles to regulate, he can't sleep. And I'm sure a lot of you can resonate with that. So yes, I apologise that this week has not been a good sleep week. And some of that lack of sleep will actually form part of a potential win. But challenges. What have I found challenging this week? Well, I thought I'd come into the garden. One, not because it is hot and it's slightly cooler out here, although if I do start to cry in the live stream, it's because I am light sensitive, and if I wear my sunglasses, you will see my phone reflecting in them, and that would annoy me from the filmmaker in me. So I'm doing this without sunglasses, and if the sun comes out too strongly, I might have to pause just so I can have a quick cry and then carry on. But also, this is one of the big challenges in the last week that's been happening here in the garden, and that challenge is Frankie has decided to take on a new variation of his perimeter running he used to do when he was an infant. And part of his regulation would be he would just run around perimeters of rooms, builds, wherever we were. And once he'd done that a few times, he would then sort of come, he would feel regulated, he understands the lay of the land, and then he would come in and start to engage and do other activities. And in our garden, he has now started to climb our fences. So on one side of the garden, we have got wooden fencing that has concrete bases, but the concrete base is in front of, not below, the fence panels. So he now walks along those concrete panels, holding himself up on the fence panels. It's not ideal, but he's pretty safe and he's quite good at it. However, the challenge, the side that I'm sitting, you can see in view here, we have fence panels that have they have other panels that go across, and they're a couple of inches thick and big enough for him to rest his foot on. So he keeps climbing up onto these fence panels to look into our neighbour's garden. Now, we have a really good relationship with our neighbours on this side. We speak over the fence most weekends, which might, in theory, have been part of the reason why he now likes to climb them, because he likes chatting to our neighbours and their kids, and they have a dog, and he likes trying to see where they all are when he hears noises from their side of the garden. So he does have a little steppy stool, sort of wooden structure that he can step on, and he can see clearly over to their fence. However, the rest of the fence, particularly this bit behind me, he will just hold onto the fence panel and put himself up onto the bottom support, and then he can clearly look over, and he's slowly trying to climb over the fence, which is obviously a health and safety concern and a risk. And he's doing this basically because it's been too hot to bounce. He's now looking for other things that he can do to entertain himself, and that is challenging because, one, I'm obviously worried he's going to hurt himself, break the fence, and because it's hot, I'm trying to hold and take his body weight while he's doing the exploring, looking over the fence, and I'm like, there's nothing there, can we come down now? So that's quite energy intensive, and it does make you hot because I'm holding a hot kid who's been running around and climbing, and then I'm trying to take all of his weight for a couple of minutes at a time, and we might repeat this a couple of times in a 10-minute period. So I've had to start taking up ways. So the chair that I'm sitting in here, this sort of cuddle chair, is now positioned in such a way that he can't get to said fence panel. So whenever I'm not in the garden, if I'm going to get a drink or grab my phone or answer the door or whatever, or start cooking, I can't leave this part of the garden left open because I know he'll go climb, and it's completely out of sight from the windows and the door. So yeah, the challenge is he's in the climbing phase and basically cannot be left unattended in the garden for more than 10-15 seconds before he might try and climb up a fence. And his little neurodivergent brain just wants to do this constantly. And because it's repetitive in nature, it then also slowly starts to wear you down, going, can we get down? Can we not climb? We shouldn't climb. The neighbours aren't in, or we've said hello. And yeah, he's now starting to treat it like a game. So that can be slightly challenging in the heat. It's better than him climbing in the kitchen, which he had demonstrated a few weeks ago. He just climbed up onto our kitchen side to open the doors to go get a snack that he wanted, that he knew he couldn't have at that time of day. But yeah, now he's moved that activity to the garden. So because it's too hot to bounce, we're now climbing and walking around the perimeters of our wall. The last thing he does is, behind the trampoline that we have for him, we have a large ladder, ones that you can go up the side of a building on to get on the roof, and he walks along that now, resting his arm on the trampoline on one side and the other fence on the other. So he can pretty much go around 3/4 of the garden now, holding onto fence panels, climbing on things, or trying to climb up a fence panel. So that's been particularly exhausting and challenging this week. What has been challenging for you in the past week? I would love to hear, and so would Ben, and maybe we can share some of them on our upcoming conversations. Because yeah, I can appreciate there's definitely people out there that have got more challenging, pressing challenges than that. but that's what's been particularly challenging for me this week. So I'm now just going to run and have a glass of water because it's very hot, and then I'll come back and tell you about my wins.
Got a question or want to share a story? Drop us a message on Instagram or email us at NeuroDADverse@gmail.com. Look after yourselves.
Hello, welcome back. So if you've made it this far, thank you for staying. This is the part now where we talk about our wins, and this week I've got 3 particular things I would like to share. And the first one is school fete. So Frankie's school had their school fete on Saturday, and we have gone to 2 school fetes previously. The first one was not too successful. He didn't really enjoy it. There's a lot of audio sensitivities. Last year we went and we had a better experience. We engaged with things a little bit more. We explored around a little bit. It was sort of mostly indoors. We didn't really go to the outdoor part of it. This week we went and attended for a good hour 15. We got a cab down there, walked into school. We met my mum down there, and he ran in all happy. He could hear the music playing, he could see all the balloons and decorations, and probably 95% of the fete was outside this year because the weather was lovely. And we walked around the field several times. Frankie engaged in a couple of activities. It was great to see pretty much every staff member at his school there. They were all saying hello. Obviously, some of the things that can throw him is they're not wearing their sort of typical teacher attire. So seeing teachers in polo shirts and shorts, for example, and I just love watching him react when a teacher comes up or a staff member will go, "Hi Frankie, how are you?" And he just looks at them like, "What on earth are you wearing?" And that's always, I just love how openly he expresses things. Gets that from his mum. And yeah, we did a little bit of trampolining. Of course, there was an ice cream truck. We went straight to that. That was right in the middle. That was also where his current class teacher was having the stall that they were looking after, so he was chatting and catching up with them. And then we went and sat in a police car. There was a police van there exhibiting, and he liked putting on the police hat, and he likes me putting on the police hat, and then him, Nanny, and Amy all got into the back of the police van and just sat there and posted some photos, which I managed to get. So that was just really, really lovely. And there was music playing the whole time. It was hot. There was kids having fun, and obviously it was noisy. And it was just lovely to see him engage in what felt like a very normal, in inverted commas, family activity. And what was really lovely about it was when he wanted to leave, he kind of asked me to come and stand next to him. He kind of held my hand a little bit. He started walking us towards the exit. And on the way to the exit is the indoor bit, which was like some little cars and an inflatable track. I thought he might want to go on that. And he started to pull my hand towards the exit, and we looked at everyone and went, "Do you want to go?" And he kind of acknowledged or made some kind of hand movement they wanted to. So we left. So it wasn't overwhelming. We left on good terms. We had a good sort of 90 minutes trip total, door to door, and it was just lovely. And that was my main win of the week. My second win of the week of mentioning was the World Cup game, England versus DR Congo, and it was at a time that Frankie, we would usually be in our bedtime routine, but as it was the World Cup and it has been hot and it is bright, we thought, why not try and watch the game? And once the game finishes, we put it into bed. It was a 5 o'clock kickoff, I think it was, and it finished at 7-ish. So we just thought, we'll see if he wants to sit and watch. So we had the garden door open so he could come in and out of the garden. Me and Amy were watching the football, and Frankie was participating with us because he wanted to come in. He wasn't really watching the game as such, but he loved the noises that we would make. So if we hit the post or we had a good shot on target, I'd go, oh, we've hit the post, or go. He would look at us and giggle his head off, and that was kind of his way of interacting and watching football with us, which I thought was really, really lovely. And so did Amy. And obviously we got the result we wanted, despite it being a challenging game. And we said, right, bedtime, I think you're ready for bed. And he came to bed and was asleep quite quickly, actually. And I believe that night he did sleep relatively well. So that was another positive. And my last one was on Sunday when we usually do a recording. One of my best friends from school comes over with his family. We take it in turns to host each other like every 4 to 6 weeks, however schedules lie. And it was our turn to host them. And what was particularly good on this occasion is, although both their kids play with Frankie and they play with Frankie, they don't play round Frankie, which is something that when you go to neurotypical settings, kids are like, yeah, it's cool. They don't mind that, Frankie outwardly stims and runs up and down and sings like a bird or whatever, but they don't necessarily play together. They kind of play in the same area and play around them. With my friends' kids, they're always trying to play games with Frankie as and when they sort of crop up. And we've started, last time we met up, we made a game where we chase each other in circles around the trampoline, and that is something that Frankie has been making us do in the living room and on the trampoline without them. But as soon as they came, he wanted to get them on the trampoline and start doing that game, and they did. And they listen, and it's just lovely. But what was particularly good on this occasion was normally he gravitates around my friend, their dad, to come and do bouncing and lifting wherever. On this occasion, he was actually starting to interact more with his wife, the kid's mum, and was asking her to sort of come with. And obviously she did. She obliged. She was really happy to. And they had turns where the mums were on the trampoline with the kids, and me and my friend sat at the table outside and just went, this is a nice role reversal. So that was sort of a little win in the sense that we weren't having to run around in the sun all the time. But it was just also good that Frankie's got comfortable enough now to start bossing around other adults and making them do what he wants them to do. And that was just really, really lovely to see and to witness. And again, he did start to get a little bit cranky because he had not slept well the night before. He'd only had about 3 hours sleep. So come 3-ish o'clock, he was pretty done. But also they were quite happy to leave because it was hot and obviously got to get ready for the school run on Monday. So it all went quite well. He did sleep quite well that evening, and he did start the week on Monday quite well, as I'm not recording on Sunday, as previously said. So they're my 3 wins. That was my challenge. Thank you so much for listening to us, as always. Ben should be back with me next week. We should be able to find a bit more window of time. We are going to do our first in-person meetup in a couple of weeks' time. So if you do have any questions or stories that you want to share, where you want to spend some of this in-person podcast time answering some questions that we've been given, because we do get questions in our DMs on social media, but we don't necessarily answer them in shows because we've been saving things up for that. So if you've got any questions or share any experiences or whatever your biggest win has been in the last year NeuroDADverse has been around, I can tell from the numbers there are people that have been listening to us from the beginning, and we honestly can't thank you enough. And we record our chats around the wins and the challenges of our weeks, because if you can help just one other adult, it's made this worth it. So thank you for listening. Please win your week. And remember, you are enough, you're doing great, and you're certainly not alone. You're always welcome here in the NeuroDADverse. Win the week.
That's about it for the NeuroDADverse. We'll be back next week.
If you laughed, cried, or nodded in tired agreement, don't forget to follow us and leave a review. It helps more parents find us.
Just remember, you're doing great.
You are enough, and you are definitely not alone.
Got a question or want to share a story? Drop us a message on Instagram or email us at neurodadverse@gmail.com. Look after yourselves.